Let me join in the conversation Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, former director of the Defense Intelligence Agency. General, thanks very much for joining the conversation this morning. Good to see you.
Thanks, Maria.
Your reaction to what we've been watching.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that I would say is we have to stop reacting and start acting. I mean, what the governor just said is that, you know, we're going to put 1,000 more resources. We got the National Guard. I mean, we are going to have to reinforce with resources our law enforcement professionals. Frankly, until we can get this thing, until we can deal with this enemy the way we need to deal with this enemy, we're going to have to provide resources, and we're going to have to provide a different type of authorities for our law enforcement professionals from the federal, state, local, tribal level across this country. Otherwise, we're going to continue to see these types of attacks. I agree with everything that's been said, you know, that this is, you know, we're not really sure exactly who this is yet, but we had 3 terror attacks, one in make sure I got this place right, St. Cloud, Minnesota, Seaside Park, New Jersey, and right here in Chelsea, New York City. I mean, come on. These are 3 terror attacks in under 24 hours. And let me tell you 2 other things, Maria. About 5 or 6 days ago, on the website of the Islamic State, they put out how to sort of build these types of devices. It was either the 12th or the 13th. They sort of put them back out there to say, to say, you know, hey, here's how to do this. And they also said about 72 hours ago to start conducting attacks against easier, essentially softer targets, to include children playing in playgrounds. I mean, so I don't want to say that this is a radical Islamist terrorist attack in Chelsea, but I'm just telling you that we are facing a threat that we have to stop reacting to, and we have to start acting.
Yeah, General, Jim Kallstrom, you're 100% correct. I mean, everything you just said is absolutely right. You know, and yet we got 300 and some odd sanctuary cities in the United States.
It's ridiculous.
And we got a police departments that are demoralized and are afraid to lean forward. You know, afraid to get out of their cars because they're going to be called this, they're going to be called that. We got people that are threatening to kill police that are welcomed into the White House. I mean, it's just not a good picture. You're 100% correct.
Yeah, you know, and Maria, you know, and Jim knows this, and your listeners know this. We have rules of engagement on the battlefield, and they're very restrictive right now. We also have rules of engagement in our cities and how our police forces, how they engage the public. And there has been a pulling back of how we are engaging the public around this country. I mean, the police, they know what to do. They know how to act. They know how to treat people. I mean, all of this nonsense that we're hearing, all these attacks against our law enforcement professionals, I mean, we are in a different state right now in terms of the types of threats that we're facing. I mean, this is the 21st century, and we have some very, very new threats that we have to deal with. And frankly, the same old stuff that we've been doing is not going to work, and it's not working. And
you know, there's this narrative that comes from the top, President Obama, that the terrorists are on the run, and agency by agency and official after official follows that narrative and tries to tell that story, Jim, even though the evidence is right in front of us. Of course this was terrorism. We don't know what kind of terrorism, but yes, they're terrorizing New York, they're terrorizing New Jersey, and terrorizing Minnesota.
Well, when you take all references out of the FBI training documents to anything Muslim, I mean, how does the FBI director go along with that?
Why did
how
they
does the
take
FBI
out,
director
I don't know,
not
you got to back up here. What exactly, in the training manuals of the FBI, the word Muslim has been taken out?
Well, I don't know if the word itself, but the references to the Muslim Brotherhood probably, and, you know, just this whole radical Muslim thing, it's disappeared. It's not there anymore. You know, let's get rid of these words and the terrorism will stop. I mean, it's crazy, crazy stuff.
And that's one of the reasons, General, that you've been supporting Donald Trump, because he is talking about border control. He's talking about making sure that we know who's coming in and out of this country. Yeah, and let me just be very blunt. I mean, we're talking about the politicization of, I mean, so many parts of our government and all this tippy-toeing around words. I mean, let's get very practical and real with what it is that is going on in this country. And what the American public want, and frankly what Donald Trump provides, is honesty. You know, I mean, just blunt truth as to what is going on. And frankly, that's what the American public, they're demanding. They're actually demanding. And so we have to stop. And I'll tell you, it's very interesting that the governor came out and not the mayor of New York City where the attack occurred, because Mayor de Blasio
in his comments last night, I arrived about an hour before the attack. I mean, he was trying so hard to be politically correct. I mean, just say what you know is the truth.
Right. He called it an intentional act. That's a new one, Jim Kallstrom. All right, before we go, the general is talking about the politicization of the agencies, and we said it earlier. Got the IRS targeting conservatives. You got Loretta Lynch meeting with Bill Clinton on the plane, and then, of course, there's this interview with Secretary Clinton by the FBI where Jim Comey says all of this stuff about carelessness, but then doesn't charge.
And there's no prosecution of the IRS. The FBI doesn't step up and do an investigation. You know, they don't even interview anybody in cases like that.
You wanted to make one more point about that.
Yeah, he even got Hillary, you know, this so-called interview, okay? And their lawyers laid out, I don't know exactly what they laid out, but it made it so you couldn't record, you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that, she's not going to do this.
It was not on the record.
And it's not on the record. Now, the FBI usually doesn't videotape unless you're arrested. But in this case, this lady is running for president of the United States. Should not the public know how many times she said, I don't remember, or I'm not going to answer, or I'm pleading the fifth, or whatever? Shouldn't the public know that? Shouldn't there have been a transcript? It's a political document.
Well, they had notes, and they released those notes on Friday before Labor Day.
And how does the FBI director give his conference and lay out all this stuff about what she did, and then have that foolish thing he did after that? And then when asked a question by the news media, what went on during the Clinton interview, he said, I haven't asked the agents yet what went on in the interview. He didn't even know what went on in the interview. The interview was crazy. I mean, there was nothing went on in the interview. But obviously, he knew that ahead of time.
Well, he answers to Loretta Lynch, so there you go. Yeah. General, final word?
Yeah, you know, and I'll tell you, and for both Jim and I mean, this doesn't make us feel good to have to talk like this about the leaders of this country. I mean, people that we know. But you know what? I mean, we have got to get real here, and that's why this country needs change, and we need change right now. And I'm telling you, we have such a deficit of leadership in this country, and that's why I'm sitting here today supporting Donald Trump. I'm telling you that we need leadership, and we need it so badly. We have such a deficit, and I would rather cheer for the leaders that are leading our country, but I can't sit here today and do that.
Right.
So would I. So would I. Amen, General Flynn.
We appreciate your candor. General, do you agree with Jim that we will find out in short order who planted those bombs because of the forensics?
Absolutely. I mean, I could go into rhyme and verse on what we've discovered in terms of fingerprints on the smallest pieces of a bomb, you know, on the battlefield. So absolutely, the professionals that we have that examine this kind of stuff, they'll know. They will definitely find out.
All right. That investigation is underway, so when, obviously, that news comes out, we will have it on television, live, and online. Gentlemen, thank you. General, good to see you. Jim Kallstrom, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time this morning.